Oh, yeah, it's me again. The Wolf is back with you. It's time for another episode of Dancing with Wolves tonight. The day after, kind of a follow-up from my show last night. Taking a little bit different approach, a little bit different spin on the whole 9/11 thing. I wanted to first and foremost say with that, especially for all the first responders, firefighters, police officers, nurses, everybody who has and continues to do their part out there. Thank you for your service. To the family and friends and everyone who lost loved ones, obviously, the deepest of sympathies. There is no way around a shit sandwich like this. Full disclaimer, for those of you who've never danced with me, I tend to follow the George Carlin school language, so you're going to hear some language. It is, as my brother Ed says, a big part of the Contini context. Language defines certain things, and some things deserve a real big fuck on it. For those of you at home who are listening and are not actually seeing the graphic up, and it's a graphic that I kind of promo the show out with, George Carlin, a quote from him, one of his routines, one of his shows. And the quote is simply, governments don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. That is against their interests. They want obedient workers, people who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork, and just dumb enough to passively accept it. I don't think there are any truer words. They were true then, and I think they are especially true now. I was talking with my mother earlier today, and she inspires me a lot of this. She has given me not only the gift of music, but the gift of knowledge. And there's certain dynamics of things we can agree to disagree, but, you know, the narratives that continue to play out on a day-to-day basis, it's kind of obvious, okay? They don't give a fuck about us. They haven't given a fuck about us. And I'm pretty sure, George, Richard Pryor, all the great comedians, Robin Williams, they're fucking rolling in their graves looking at the fucking stupidity that is sold to us on a daily basis. And again, this isn't about politics, because guess what? It's both sides. Okay? That's part of the bullshit. They keep us divided. They keep us focused on stupid things. They keep us divided by hate, by weaponized empathy, and just continual heaping piles of bullshit. Okay? And I know this, again, from my own personal experiences, my years, as they say, on the outside and on the inside. Is it all bullshit? Obviously not. There's enough there to at least make it slightly palatable. I believe in the concept of America. I believe in the concept of free speech. I believe in the concept of love. So I'm going to try and fight for the things that I believe are right. But I'm also cognitive that because of so many generations now of conditioning and manipulation of language and everything that goes with it, that not everybody is up to speed on it. And it's not necessarily their fault. Not everything is as simple as some would like to believe. A friend of mine, Matt Brown, posted earlier about the difficulties even having a conversation sometimes. And it's easy to get lost in some of the more emotional aspects of things that go on around us. But you have to look at the context. My brother Matt, he's a parent with young kids. Okay, I know this guy. He's concerned about the things that are important to him because he loves them. Okay, and that, when you apply it, not only makes his points valid, but should be taken into consideration. And we all need to do a little bit more of that. I want to say good evening to my brothers Jonathan and Derek. And Derek has a nice little quote there, and I'm going to read it. If the kingdom convinces the guys with the pitchforks that the guys with the torches that they want to take them from each other, then they will never team up and go after the kingdom like they should. Very well said, my brother. Listen, this is the art of war, divide and conquer. Okay? It's not rocket science. History tends to repeat itself. Again, as always, the views, thoughts, expressions are mine and Derek's and Jonathan's tonight, because that's who I can see in the fucking chat. So we're going to run the disclaimer like that. Take what you need, leave the rest behind. I'm not going to try to trigger anybody. I'm not going to try to offend anybody. But if for some reason something I say makes you feel a particular way, hey, listen, I'm open. I'll try and have the conversation with you. But at the end of the day, we all have to walk our own walk, and we got to deal with our own shit sometimes. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't help each other. Part of why I do what I do is to help, okay? I don't have fucking corporate sponsors and people paying me money to do this shit, okay? I do it because I want to, and I do it also because I believe it's important. But I've been able to use this, for lack of a better way to put it, to also accomplish some things. And I believe in the magic of music. Hence, my Monday night show is called the Music and Magic Show. So I try and leverage these things. If people are going to listen to me and be like, hey, listen to my friends. Listen to the people who I respect, who I like. And music, again, like everything else, has to be passed on. You know what I mean? Especially with the way fucking commercial radio is. It's almost impossible to really experience some of the things that are going on unless it fits a fucking corporate model. And a lot of these bands don't fit a corporate model. They deserve it, don't get me wrong. But we all know how it goes. Shout out to my sisters, Oracles, and the Assassin Queen, Diana. Thank you for joining me. I've had Diana on the show a couple times, and she has some really cool insights and experiences along the way. And many times, you know what I mean, that Contini context, as I call it, is really relevant to each and every one of us. Our stories are different in many ways. Different things happen for a variety of different reasons, but certain feelings are universal. Love, pain, laughter, contempt, confusion, fear. So within those elements, we can find the common ground, and we can better deal with the day after. Now, some of you may remember that. That was a kind of a TV movie back in the day about nuclear war, and it was pretty fucking horrific for network TV, but I still thought it was a great fucking movie. But it can easily apply to the day after, like a lot of us who lived in the tri-state area. And I was working in the city circa 9/11. I just wasn't in the city that day because I had stuff with my son in school. But I was working in the fashion district over on 31st. I could have easily been in there. Easily been in the fucking city. But I wasn't. But a lot of people were. And when you look at that kind of tragedy, of course, the first thing that's going to happen the day after, you're going to have an emotional response. There's going to be anger. There's going to be fear. And there's going to be a whole lot of fucking confusion. And there's been a lot of confusion still all these years later. But what I can say, and I experienced this firsthand, because I had friends then and now who are Muslim, that are from Muslim countries, that come from deep families with heritage in these countries. And they're not fucking terrorists. They're not bad people. They're just like you and me. Okay? And some of the anger and the vitriol and the just, hey, let's just point our finger at anybody who looks different, who talks different. And it became a kind of paranoia. These are the tools of weaponized empathy. You know what I mean? And get everybody focused over here, freaking out about this, that, and the other thing. And that doesn't justify what happened. And that isn't to say that there are elements that didn't happen to play. But if we blame entire groups of people every time somebody does something fucked up, there wouldn't be many of us left at the end of the day. So as a simple narrative, you know what I mean? Not everybody got a fair shake. Now, again, that's not to dismiss the tragedies of the people that died during this and the people who have died since. And I believe that the better testament is to focus on those elements. I'm a big fan of Jon Stewart and what he's been doing for years, fighting the politicians on both ends of the aisle to get the firefighters and the first responders and the police officers of New York City, who are not only there on ground zero, but were part of the very important task of cleaning up, of getting the bodies out of the rubble so that their loved ones could have closure. And if anybody thinks in any reality that the shit that they were exposed to wasn't healthy for them, you know what I mean? We shouldn't even be arguing this shit. We should be taking care of them, just like we should be taking care of every man and woman that comes back serving our armed forces. But we don't. We talk a really good talk, but they don't have real support. And the little support they have to fight through mountains of fucking red tape, apathetic fucking pencil pushers in the fucking VA, who none of us would even trust to make a fucking peanut butter sandwich, let alone handle somebody's fucking medical care. Give me a fucking break. This is systemic at so many different levels of our society, but yet we passively accept it. Now, granted, a lot of what's been going on around us is because people are sick and tired, and they are, in their own ways, reacting. I would always submit, if you can find a way to fight the system through love, through teaching, through offering a hand, is always the best way. Violence is never a solution. Anger is never a solution. I understand it, though. I get why people are fucking frustrated. But let's spin it. And one of the things I've talked about a lot, and I will continue to, each of us individually has the power to change how we perceive a thing. It takes some practice, because if we're conditioned to respond a particular way, changing that narrative takes practice. But you can take, and George Carlin was very outspoken about this, you can take a shitty dynamic and you put some fucking humor in it, and you take away at least part of the shitty dynamic. Mel Brooks was very famous in regards to elements of what we would consider inappropriate now to some degrees in regards to how we handle race relations and some of the words that are involved with it. But here is the simple truth. If we allow these words to carry hate, if we allow them to represent the worst of us, then of course that's what they're going to do. And a lot of people believe, and rightfully so, that our best chance at really changing it, is to take away the dark elements of it, to take away the shitty, hateful aspect. Does that mean that in any context, how somebody uses any word can be used to hurt, to put somebody down, to manipulate? Of course. Obviously, some words have more triggers than others, and I'm not going to get into those words because I don't need to. Whatever those words are for you, you get it. But when we can't even have a conversation about it without it turning into a fucking spin course on political correctness versus, somebody's hurt feelings, guess what? It's bullshit. And we have to call out bullshit for what it is. Context is everything. It's the application. If you have a comedian, who's up there, and maybe he happens to be, a black guy from an inner city, and maybe he's had some experiences within that particular environment that reflects a particular style of language, why does that make him less than? Why does it automatically make him a drug dealer or a thug or any number of analogies? Especially in the context of comedy, and I'll use a guy like Dave Chappelle. If you actually take the time to listen to the context and not just dog whistle on top of a bell, ding, 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 ding. Oh. What the fuck is that? It has no real framework in any reality. And it doesn't matter, and Brother Jonathan hits, it doesn't matter if you're black or white or Latino or whatever, or if you come from this or that. They exist at every level of every society. Okay? And they come in the form of religion, they come in the form of class, they come in the form of sexuality, they come in the form of everything, because that's part of the human condition. So understanding that and at least putting it into a framework sometimes of comedy, well, fuck that. I'm not going to sit here and make me feel shitty about it. I'm going to make it into an inappropriate joke. Okay? And if that means I got to spread my ass cheeks and let out a big fucking fart in the process, guess what? It's better than people feeling miserable about it. Granted, they may be disgusted, but maybe disgust is a little bit easier to deal with. Context. And in that particular case, it definitely is the Contini context. And as my brother Head knows, we joke about, because, we're both originally from Jersey, but, our families have deep, long ties within New York and the Italian communities of Brooklyn and, others and stuff. Certain things are a narrative, you know what I mean? They just, hey, forget about it. You know what I mean? They're stereotypes or whatever the fuck you want to call them. And not all of them are bad per se. I love the dynamic that we have in our Sunday group of that old world. Hey, we're getting together on Sunday and we're going to break bread together and we're going to play music and we're going to celebrate or watch some football or watch the fucking iguana, dance across the house, or Daisy the dog just decides this is a good time to let a really shitty, nasty fart out and freak everybody out, or 1,001 other scenarios that are incredibly beautiful, and they're not framed around any particular like religious narrative, or we do it because we enjoy each other's company and we love each other, but we have some of the old world dynamics about fellowship, about supporting each other, about loving each other, and that's what it's about at the end of the day. So the day after, I always feel great. It's a great buzz. It's a natural buzz. I love interacting with them. We were fucking laughing our asses off Sunday. My good friend Brian Judah was definitely in form, and he was hitting heavy on the comedy. You know what I mean? He had the plate. He was comfortable in it. Ed was throwing him fucking slow curveballs, and Brian was just cracking him out of the fucking park. And then you got my brother Mark Tunlin on drums, and he's a little bit more reserved, and, he'll sit back. But when he kicks in, yeah, man, he's fucking like Mantle. He'll just step up and just blast it over the goddamn wall. He just doesn't get as many bats because, he's that kind of guy. And all these little dynamics, Ativia, Tamara, Ayla, who's hung out with us and interacted, and Gary Mara, and, all kinds of other people. Listen, we got people coming over from just the general neighborhood because we literally have created a fucking a garage band. See, this is, again, live broadcasting. A garage. Today's word, boys and girls, is garage. J. Emphasize on the G. But that's how you can take a moment and turn it into a comedic spin. Was that planned? Oh, fuck no. Was I able to regain my balance and not look like a complete fucking buffoon? I hope so. But there's also a big part of me, and you can blame my mother again for this. I don't give a fuck. I just don't. I focus on the things that I can control, and I try and be as real as I can. So with that being said, I'm going to cut into some new music. Okay. Really privileged to have these guys. I met this guitar player through Brian Judah. They opened up for Vinny Apici's Sabbath Nights about a month or so ago. And their band Dangerous Beauty put on a really cool fucking set. The guitar player, Manny, also has a new band called the Eyes of Odin. And they're literally just out of the gates. Like, they got like 20 likes and subscribes on their YouTube channel. And I want to fucking change that. So I'm saying to everybody that's out here today, my friends, okay? Facebook, YouTube, check out this band, Eyes of Odin, okay? This is a guy I know. He's a friend of a friend, if you know what I'm saying. He's connected to some people, and when you have that type of stuff, you know what I'm talking about. Forget about it. He's a really fucking cool guy. Brian is a really cool guy. And this project is worth noting, okay? These guys got a really cool sound. So for the first time here on my podcast, a little bit of Eyes of Odin, Monster in Me, and then we'll be back.
Used, mistreated, if you were seen this
Yeah, little Eyes of Odin. Monster in Me. Definitely a band to keep an eye out. This is literally their first release. Check them out on Facebook, YouTube. Give them a like, give them a share. It doesn't cost you anything. Encourage these guys. I was talking to Manny earlier. They got about 3 more tracks that they're going to be releasing probably between now and the new year. And they're hoping to be out performing live 2024. And since they're up here in New York, yeah, I think I might have to get involved a little bit in that. Really like the sound, really like the guitar player. What more can you say? Go check them out, Eyes of Odin. Special shout out to my witch out there in Niagara Falls with her sister Melody. They're on a witch mission, doing what they do best. You know, and it's important. Shia is a gypsy to some degrees. The universe compels her to go out into the world and dance certain things in other places. I'm a wolf, so I tend to kind of mark out a fucking territory and I kind of stay in there. But that's okay. It works between us, you know what I mean? Because to be really honest, the only way any kind of relationship works is that you have to be who you are. And the best case scenario is somebody who's going to be okay with you being who you are. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have to make compromises or sacrifices sometimes, and it's always the Contini context, the greater good, the lesser evil, what's in play right now. But I'm really glad that she does what she does because it's important to a lot of people, and I don't want to be that fucking asshole to be like, you know what? I ain't gonna fucking share. Okay? Fuck you. Go get your own. I ain't gonna do that. So I'm gonna say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna be the better wolf. And I'm gonna trust the universe. Be careful out there, ladies. Okay? Know that you are loved. So getting back to the day after. The day after is one of those things. It's got a whole lot of analogies. The day after could be after a really heavy binge. But the day after tends to always reflect things that go sideways. Okay? And when shit goes sideways, using the analogy of this quote from Carlin, we need to be informed. We need to be educated to some degree, and education isn't just school books. And we also really need to be capable of critical thinking. We have to understand and recognize our part in things if we want shit to change. Now, again, if you're comfortable, you're cool with it, then guess what? This doesn't apply. Have a nice day. But for a lot of us, we kind of look at certain things and we're like, you know what? I didn't really enjoy that. I don't like it. I don't want to go to Pacific Playlands with you. I really don't. So we have to figure out ways to deal with that fucking shit. And it requires, again, all of these elements. And a lot of times, through no fault of our own, we're simply not going to have the tools to deal with it. Okay? So we need other people. And again, we're not always going to agree on everything. But we should be capable of a conversation without it becoming something else. Not always possible. I get it. Shit happens. But when you go through certain things, and especially if you go through things in regards to patterns, and I'm a student of history, as my brother Ed and others are, when you see patterns repeat and continue to repeat within dynamics of things, narrative, we send our children off to fight in places sometimes for reasons that don't make sense in any other dynamic of some bullshit And then we have the audacity not to take care of them. You would think we would have learned that after Vietnam, but we didn't. You hope that we've learned that since the fiascos of Iraq and Afghanistan, and that's not reflective of our military personnel or anything like that. That's reflective of the powers to be on both sides of the fence, who really just, again, look at our armed services like they would a fucking chessboard. Now, you can make a case in certain situations, and anybody with anything military background will tell you, you know what? There are times, there are situations that require exactly that mentality. However, and I'll use the kingdom analogy that my brother Derek brought up earlier, the most successful kingdoms were the kingdoms where their people, their knights, were taken care of. Okay? Because when you do that, guess what? It creates loyalty. It encourages competency and respect. But again, you know, we'll spend more money making sure that, you know, Cardi B's vagina is visible to everybody. But we just can't figure out how to get Lieutenant Dan some fucking legs. Okay? It's fucking insanity. There's no excuse for it. And the day after, we should be having that conversation. Now, a lot of people try and do. There are a lot of good groups out there that are fighting the fight, and then there are a lot of groups that are bullshit and talk a really good talk and just want your money. But, and I'll use the analogy, my brother, Tony Rodriguez, the Under My Skin for Life Foundation, has been active in veterans elements for the 12 plus years that the foundation has existed. And it's in basic things, because that's really where the difference is made when you help people on an individual basis. But we can also do things. We can raise our voices. We can write our Congress people, regardless, again, of whatever side of the fence you're on. Here's something that we agree, that we should take care of these people, our brothers, our sisters, our children. Okay? No more fucking excuses. If that means that, you know, a lot of them that have been collecting six-figure fucking paychecks for fucking years on end, if that means that they have to eat at fucking McDonald's for a week, I, for one, don't give a fuck anymore. Okay? We need to do better. We need to take care of the people who take care of us. We should not be having issues staffing our paramedic and fire departments. Okay? These are the people who protect us and take care of us in times. Our nurses. I can't speak to the doctors, you know what I mean? Because my understanding, you know, once you go through the insanity of getting your medical degree, you can pretty much write your own ticket. But I know plenty of nurses who make less than the chick at fucking McDonald's, which I don't know in what reality that makes sense. But these are the things that I'm talking about that we really need to look at the day after. And it's not, again, reflective of, you know, saying, hey, everybody deserves it. I understand when people get a little bit tweaked about, you know, paying a 17-year-old kid $20 an hour to flip a fucking cheeseburger when there are guys who've been on steel lines for 10 years that aren't making $20 an hour. So when you see somebody get upset about that narrative, you got to understand they've been dealing with their own bullshit. And we don't always understand it. So we're like, oh, you're an asshole. These kids need a working wage. Listen, everybody needs a fucking working wage, but you know what I mean? We're fighting for burger flippers instead of fucking steel workers. Okay? We're fighting for stupid shit instead of our nurses. Again, our EMTs, our firefighters. And don't even get me started, you know, in regards to law enforcement. You know, you have thousands upon thousands of law enforcement officers out there, and most of them are not racist. They're not assholes. They're not bullies. but the ones that are, keep getting the media time, because that's an engaging story to keep everybody freaked out. Okay? People act like assholes sometimes, and it doesn't matter if you're a fucking cop or a judge or Father Flanagan from the local fucking parish or a YouTube influencer or a fucking comedian like Louis C.K. who was just like, hey, I like to pull my dick out in front of people. Do you mind? Roll the dice. Every time you roll it, the Contini context is going to give you a different result. Welcome to the wonderful world we live in. Now, again, certain things we can probably, agree on within a basic framework. And I'll just use the simple ones. I feel pretty comfortable that everybody out there likes breathing. So based on the assumption that everybody likes to breathe, having breathable air, I think it's, okay, we can agree on that. Now, how do we maintain that? Well, a couple of simple things. We got to stop cutting down trees, because trees are our primary source of actually filtering all the fucking bullshit that we squeeze out of our ass on a daily basis and actually give us fucking oxygen. So, anything green, basically chlorophyll, science. Oops, I said the science word. So somebody's going to get fucking triggered. But yeah, just basic, let's figure out different ways to do things and stop building fucking strip malls. Maybe. I mean, at some point, the balance, it's a simple numbers game. It's not rocket science. At some point, there's been a lot of shit going on, and, a lot of the big science groups have been talking about we're even changing the way the planet spins, because we're sucking so much groundwater out of the planet that the planet is actually having to readjust its ass. You're just like, yeah, you took a little bit too much off the top. Special shout out, and I was waiting for this. The beautiful thing about doing a fucking live show is I can do whatever the fuck I want. So this was a dynamic, okay, again, that I wanted to do personally. I just got to find it now. Yes, that's a picture of what the fuck is going on out there. See that big swirly fucking thing out there? Yeah, that's an actual real storm that's bigger than most fucking European countries. Okay? That's how the planet's going to deal with us. Okay? Just saying. Special shout out to my brother Chris Miller. Happy birthday. As I was saying before, I was so rudely distracted by nature. I wanted to wait, hoping you were going to come out here so I could embarrass you in real time and you wouldn't have to go back and watch it and repeat. Known this guy a long time. Happy birthday, my brother. Listen, you got to fight your own storm. There she is, okay? It's fucking Hurricane Michelle. Look how fucking fat that ass is. I mean, that, there's a fat ass, and then that's just fucking ridiculous, okay? And she's a fucking monster, and she's going to fucking consume everything she comes across. She doesn't give a fuck. She'll kill her own children in the process, because that's the kind of fucking hurricane she is, okay? She'll eat up everything that comes along the way. Oh, fuck that. There's just something more, This is the world we live in now. That was satire, by the way. George Carlin humor with a personal twist. Inside joke. Because it's my show and I can fucking do that. See, a little extra something for you, Miller. Because we love you. You hang in there. So yeah, that's what's going on. And, that's not to mention, a little bit off the side of that photo. See, because the earth is actually round, which is why we can't take a picture of every place at once. You can only really get a picture of the side that, whatever particular satellite happens to be in orbit, it's going to be able to get the fucking picture. You fucking idiot flat earthers. Okay? Fuck you. Okay? I'm done playing. I'm not going to, it's ridiculous at this particular juncture. the rest of us should not have to suffer fucking fools. I understand there are things you can make a case, okay? You want to come at me with some Jeffrey Epstein type of shit? You know what? I'll listen to it because he was a shady motherfucker and he hung out with a bunch of shady motherfuckers. And we all know what happens when you get a bunch of shady old white guys and money, alcohol, and drugs together. They're going to be fucking goats, little children. They're going to be fucking each other. So let's not even pretend it didn't happen. Now, personally, I don't need any more details than that, but I understand why people have particular theories about that shit. We can agree to disagree on certain things. But the world is not fucking flat. And on the other side, to the right where you can't see it, fucking Libya just got hit by one of these storms coming from the other fucking direction and caused catastrophic flooding that literally a dam broke and just washed in and wiped out a fucking town. Literally, thousands of fucking people just washed out. The end. Happening literally as we were sleeping. The narrative being, and I'm not going to try and frame that with humor because the tragedy is ridiculous. My heart goes out, and how can you not but empathize with anybody, you know what I mean, who may or may not have family or friends who lived out there. And we have to do better. We have to stop pretending like we're smarter than the planet, that we can just do whatever we want and that there won't be consequences. And it doesn't matter if it's Exxon's fault or if it's all the cows farting's fault or whatever the fuck bullshit you want to spin on it. Shit is happening and we have to contend with it, which means about doing practical things. We need to either work on shit like real seawalls that stop the fucking ocean, or we have to start moving people away from the places that we already know the ocean is getting ready to swallow like a cheap hooker in the alley. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to end badly. So on that horrible particular note, I am going to cut to some more music. And this is a new band that I got turned on to. They'll be performing, I don't know if it's October 28th or 29th, but they're part of the Rock and Oddities Con. And you know what? I'll throw that little promotional thing up there because I can. Here we go for Jim, my sister. Rock and Oddities Con, October 28th, 29th, Saratoga Springs. Myself, Shy, a whole bunch of us are going to be up there, bands. But this band in particular is going to be my highlight. And that's Annika. Jesus Christ, I can't even speak right anymore. So yes, Annika, I'm friends with Pete Palace, so that's the honest truth. Full disclosure. And I've liked his music for years, so going to see them for me is really cool. You know what I mean? Really cool. It's been years since I've been able to see them. But this new band, and it's not to take anything away, because these guys are pretty cool. I'm digging on their sound and their vibe, and they're a good band. Okay. And this is a band called The Tradition. And this is an interesting little track, and I'm going to let it speak for itself. I'm going to learn how to talk again, and then I'll come back.
1, 2, 3, 4. Might not feel the pain. I'd rather face a setback than go down at the wrong time. The magic and the mischief always follow the same path. I've been trying to make some sense to this, so please save me the last dance. Oh, say, can you bleed for me? Oh, say, can you bleed for me just one more time? Feel your pain.
Yeah, that was a little bit of the tradition. Oh, say, can you bleed? Again, for anybody that knows me, and as my mother called out, my brain is going faster than my mouth, so I'm going to try and slow it down. It's one of the things that happens to me when I become animated about something, or in this particular case, passionate about it. But she's right. And who better to call me out than my mother? So I will take that for what it is. Thanks, Ma. But again, these guys deserve a little bit better of a promotion, as they say, because they are a good band. And they're going to be out at the Rockin' Oddities Con. Like I said, Shy and myself, a whole lot of others are going to be out there October 28th, 29th. A lot of bands, a lot of cool stuff, paranormal stuff. Belly dancers, snake charmers, witches, wizards, magicians, tattoo artists, beef jerky vendors. I mean, you name it. It's going to be off the hook. It's going to be a great Halloween weekend. But again, this band, The Tradition, and I'm going to throw up their thing. There they are. I got a definite vibe. I mean, again, I have my son who's younger than me, obviously. He plays with me. So I see a bunch of guys kind of like my age, and I see that young dude there, and I'm like, yeah, they're keeping it tied in. They're keeping it alive. That's really the best case example. You know what I mean? We don't have to separate between old and young. We can find ways, and music is a great way to find that common bound. So check them out, Facebook, YouTube, give them a like. They got a bunch of other music, and I'll be playing them leading up to that event. I try and spin as much local quote-unquote music. Some of the bands are from Rochester. Some of them are from right over in Syracuse, Saratoga Springs, Buffalo. Some of them Jersey, Ohio. One of the bands I'm going to play later that's, definitely high on my, stranded on a desert island list. Phantom High. Special shout out to my sister Peril out there dancing with her demons. And I always like to really give credit where credit's due. It's not easy putting yourself out there, really sharing, because, good music, and you could hear it in this track, tends to reflect, some of the darker things, how we bleed, the demons in us, the monster in me. Little bit of a trend, I don't know. But I'm going to keep it going with another band that's going to be performing at that show. And as I mentioned, I've known Pete Palace to different degrees over a few years now. But now recently we've actually started, engaging and talking. He's a really cool guy, definitely a kindred spirit. And having been a fan of the band for a while, you know what? The universe sometimes gives us magic, and it's up to us to use that magic. So this is a new track that I haven't played. It's a few years old track, but it's a great track for Monica. And then we'll be back again. Oh, yeah. Ghosts of Yesterday. Hanukkah, again, performing October 28th at the Rockin' Oddities Con. If you want to find out more about that, check them out. For those of you who can't see the graphic promotion, rockodditiescon.com. You can find them on Facebook, social media, all over the place. It's going to be one hell of a weekend. Also want to give a shout out to my brother, Tony Rodriguez. Ah, there it is. That's what I was looking for. That's the guy I was wishing happy birthday to. He probably already fell asleep because he's fucking old now. And if he's still listening, I'm going to fuck with you. And if Susie's next to you, I'm explicitly asking her to give you my birthday present to you, which is to punch your dick as hard as she can. Because I love you. See, that's the kind of humor that we can share between each other because we've known each other for so long. And I'm sure Susie will appreciate the opportunity to get her rocks off. A little cheeky fun. So, yeah, that was from last year's Art for Autism. Shouting out my brother Tony Rodriguez, the Under My Skin for Life Foundation. That event is going on. Okay. Saturday, the 23rd, coming up. Week and a half. Whole bunch of bands, wrestlers, personalities, acoustic, metal, rock and roll, all kinds of interesting stuff. The 501st Star Wars group, they're going to be down there doing their magic. All kinds of vendors. It's a free event for a great cause. The proceeds to benefit Oasis Farms, Red Bank. They are a school literally for autism in the Monmouth County area. And again, these are the things that we can make a difference for. Trust me when I say there are people who are dancing with issues, be it autism or health reasons, be it cancer or veterans or any number of analogies. So when people say, well, what can I do? Volunteer some of your time, even if it's just to go down to the local senior center, hang out, play some bridge or parcheesi or something. Make a difference. Go down to a local soup kitchen or a food bank. Ask them, hey, what do you need? They'll be like, hey, you know what? We could really use some soup going into the fall. That really helps people. Go down to your local store, spend fucking $20 and come back with a bag of chicken noodle fucking soup and drop it off. Do something. You know what I mean? Doesn't have to be a lot. You can make a difference. And I'm going to segue that into, hey, if you want to help something out, the radio station that I'm involved with, WRFZ 106.3 FM, that I do a show Monday night on, that Ed Contini does a show on, Brian Judah, Tamara McDuff, Steve Litzak, Jeff Moulton, whole lot of others, my brother Logan Merrill, Gary Reynolds. They're all volunteers. They're basically putting out this stuff like what I'm doing, different types of music. They're talking about different things, but equally as important, they're giving voice to different things. And we're a nonprofit radio station, so we don't do things the same way. So that way we can keep it as honest and as connected to what's really going on as we can. Granted, I do the podcast here because I don't have to worry about how many fucks that I throw into the mix. Whereas, commercial radio and FM station, oh yeah, you can't use that language. And I've talked about that, and I'm not going to waste time with it. But yeah, we're going to be having a show October 7th over at the House of Guitars up here in Rochester, New York. It's going to be a free show, 12 to 6. Bunch of great bands. Hollowell, well, I'm going to play a new track of theirs. Ayla Huff, I'm going to play one of hers coming up. They're going to be performing. Gary Mara and his band Skyway is going to be performing. Brian Judah's band, Days End's going to be performing. They're going to be doing a full Genesis set for anybody that's into that old school progressive rock. Peter Gabriel and crew. Really cool shit. The Mick and Mac show, they're kind of like this outlaw country, but definitely shades of old country rock, influence to, different things from Creedence to the Byrds and everything in between, a little Waylon, really cool guys. And then you got the WRFC house band, which is myself, some of the previously mentioned people, Brian Maslin, Brian Judah, Ed Contini, Mark Tuland, Steve Litvak, my son, and my brother Greg Karshuban, who I'm going to play a little quick quip of what we got going on in a little bit as a treat for the people who are hanging around the edges, who like to stay and say, you know what, I'm going to stick around and see what the fuck's actually going on. Yeah, I got a little treat for you. But we are doing this again as a free show. We want to continue to do free shows to put the programming that we have, but we can only do it. And, this is like the old PBS type of thing. We can surely use your help. So if you go online to Facebook, and if you go to the Rochester Free Radio page or my page or any of these people's pages, you're going to see the fundraiser. There's a little QVC code that you can just scan if you got a smartphone, or there's an actual link you can click. Listen, man, it doesn't matter if it's $5 or, if you got the cash, you want to throw us a nice little chunk. We're a 501c3, which means it's tax deductible. So you'd be helping out a good cause. So I'm going to keep pushing it and promoting it, and we're going to do the best again. To those of you who have been donating, supporting, thank you, Ma. Yes, even my mother supports it. How cool is that? You can't, listen, again, there's certain elements of magic you can't create. It's born. Okay, it's organic, and it's fucking beautiful. So yeah, that's what we got going on. So in conjunction with that, one of the bands that I mentioned, Hollowell, Teresa graciously sent me a new track that has yet to kind of really hit it out there. It's a really cool track. I really dig them. They're a good band. I'm honored that, they're going to be performing out there with us. I'm looking forward to working with them going into next year and the foreseeable future. So I'm going to shut the fuck up. I'm going to play a little bit of more music, and I'm going to keep going with it because I can, because that's what I do. So here is the unheard of, as of yet, track. I'm just waiting to see if Teresa was going to magically show up last time and just pop into the chat and be like, hey, I'm here. Yeah, no such luck. Lightning rarely strikes in the same place twice. So, all right, that's cool. I'm still going to fucking play it, and it'll be archived, and I'll keep playing it. So here's a little brainwave, and then I'll be back.
Hey Doc, won't you check me out? There's a problem here. It's been going on for some time now. I like the pain down deep inside, but it's found a way into my mind. And all of these easy to get pills will destroy me from the inside out. Check my brain wave, something
Oh, yeah, Little Hollowell, Brainwave. Really cool band, another really cool track. Looking forward to hearing more from them. A lot of good music. It's going to be coming out around the pike. Hanukkah's getting ready. They've been finalizing some of their stuff. Broken Pass has been working on stuff. I'm working on stuff. A lot of people working on stuff. The magic is in the air. And again, they'll be performing as one of the bands at the WRFC Rock Show, October 7th, 12 to 6. The House of Guitars, pretty iconic place up here. Really cool little outdoor venue. We're going to be punching that last bit of good weather. That's right. We are going to squeeze it out because that's what we do. And we have magic, and we have filled out the necessary permits and forms with the universe to get this done. So yeah, I'm going to call it. Unlike those of you who probably lost money on the Bills last night. There's a lot of people freaking out about that. I'm not a football guy anymore, but I got friends who do the fantasy football league and shit like that. And listen, you try and bet against the house, you're just asking to get fucked. But, this is the world we live in. Anybody who doesn't think it's possible forgets how the World Series was fixed back in the day. So when you talk about billions of dollars between these owners and all the legalized betting, quote unquote, that we have, is it really that surprising when you see what really, and again, because of all the hubbub the day after, I took a look at the footage. And that's a beautiful thing that we have these days is we got technology. We have technology that we can zoom right the fuck in. And it really does, I gotta have to say, it doesn't look good. It looks like the referees were just kind of like, yeah, well. Granted, anything in the context of the Contini context of a split second or the particular angle, yes, you can make a case for, but, it doesn't smell good. And considering the kind of money that was riding on that particular game, and for all intents and purposes, how it, listen, it's not to take anything away from the Jets. I know Ed's probably losing his fucking mind right now because he's a Jets fan. He's like, fuck that. They're a good team. Everybody underestimates, man. They're the fucking Jets, man. We're used to being the fucking underdogs. I get it, bro. You got a case too. And I mean, it's tragic. You look at Aaron Rodgers, and he knew going out there that he was going out there, and you know what? He had a bad feeling about it. And it didn't take long, and it looks like it may have fucking ended his season and quite possibly ended his fucking career. Brother man got fucked up because, we're using shit like artificial turf, knowing that these guys, you know what I mean, they're going to fuck themselves up on it. So really, this is what it is. Hey, now, what are you going to do? Sucks to be him, but listen, I don't think anybody can really say that, all right, you may not be able to play football, but, listen, you still got a lot of things you can do, man. You're a name. People recognize it. To a lot of people, he's a hero. So maybe the universe is saying, you know what? This time we only fucked up your Achilles tendon. Next time, it's going to be a Joe Theismann, and we're going to snap your leg like a fucking pixie stick, or worse. You're going to end up fucked up, you know what I mean, shitting in a bag because your body's just been so devastated by the trauma. It is what it is. Sometimes, and Brian and he made a great joke over the weekend, Judah for the win. That sometimes, man, we got to recognize our limitations. Sometimes we just got to say, you know what? We can't do it anymore. Again, it is what it is. Is it fair? Not always. But, you have to kind of look at it for what it is, and everybody's got their own perspective on it. So, but again, I watched only a very brief glimpse of the New York Giants getting their asses destroyed, and I've always been a Giants fan. And I understand how it feels to just watch your team just constantly be ridiculed and, bitch slapped around and shit. I don't know enough about the sport anymore to really make any type of definitive statement about, hey, the Jets as a team overall. I know a lot of people speak highly of the Bills and, Josh Allen and, everything they've done to rebuild that group. And obviously I live up here in the middle of Bills territory. So I try and support my brothers and sisters. I'm like, yay, Bills. But I'm not really a big football guy anymore. I used to be into boxing, but boxing is also one of those sports that is fixed. And you had a lot of characters with weird hair and shit like that fucked it up for everybody, where you just you don't, A, see the matches anymore, and B, it just, just not what it is. Now, you make a case, well, it's been replaced by MMA, but even MMA is a lot of, elements that, you kind of a little bit cringy, but that's just me. I'm old school. I grew up watching, Tuesday night ESPN, seeing those Teddy Atlas moments. And Teddy was the kind of guy who was constantly like, this is bullshit. They're all a bunch of crooked motherfuckers. Teddy knew the score. A lot of people knew the score, you know what I mean? But, what are you going to fucking do? And like I said, check your history, man. The Chicago Black Sox, they'll tell you, well, I don't think any of them are still around, but history will tell you, yeah, the World Series got fixed back in the day. So anything's fucking possible. But when we look at it, and especially like a Monday Night Football game the day after, yeah, two very distinct elements. One, quite possibly the end of a guy's career, and two, the magical beating of the point spread in the last possible moment on a bullshit call. A lot of people are not happy. I'm not one of them because, humbly, I'm not putting fucking money on them. I don't trust them. I don't trust any of them. You got a better chance of going out to the beach with a metal detector and finding buried treasure. You'll have a better time too. So kind of as promised, I'm gonna play a little something different. One is a demo track from Ayla Huff that I found in her archive of stuff. And one of the things I really like about Ayla and her respect that she's not afraid to be raw and organic about it. She's put her process out there, very much like I and others have done, to give a framework to, what some of the music becomes. And I've always loved those dynamics, the sessions, how a song starts, what it ends up becoming along the way, whatever reasons. And it's not to say one is better or worse than the other, but it does give you an interesting comparison about the process, about where certain things shift for whatever reason, be it words in the lyrics or a particular sound, or even sometimes, a particular tempo. Maybe the first version's just a little bit too slow and everybody's like, what, this needs more fucking energy. And then the version everybody knows and loves is at that particular tempo. Whole bunch of different elements, whole bunch of different reasons. So I'm going to play this demo again from Ayla called You Are Me, and it's an acoustic track. And then I'm going to play the real quick 30-second promo of a new track that Greg Karshuman and I have been working on. You could say in some ways this track has been in development for almost 30 fucking years, because Greg and I have known each other for many, many fucking years. The picture that I threw up there, just in having something to put up to this, was literally taken from back in the 90s. He and I have been, friends and musical collaborators for many, many years. He was best man at my wedding, but I forgave him for that. Inside joke. I love this guy. You know what I mean? He and I have seen some shit through the years, you know, both of us being parents and going through different things musically, you know, as well as just, you know, the daily journeys of life. And, you know, I love doing the collaborative music. I've been doing a lot of stuff with Matt Brown. Matt Brown's doing more music with me again. So I got a lot of stuff in development. Yeah, Ma, that part's coming up. I actually haven't put it up there. See, my mom's actually literally there. You know what? You should just be, you know, you should be my management representative now. I think that might be the future for you. I know you're looking for something to do, and you have some good ideas, and I'm not even going to talk about that because I don't want to steal you and Linda's thunder. But my mother's got, you know, some deep fucking magic, and she's got a whole lot extra experience. No, you don't have to fucking apologize. Listen, it's my show. I can do whatever the fuck I want. If I want to have a conversation with my mother, I'm going to have a fucking conversation with my mother. Who the fuck is going to stop me? Who the fuck is going to say anything? See, that's how I can just take a little particular moment and run with it. But I learned that from you. And I didn't even need a tire iron to do it. So yes, this is going to be a little bit of Ayla Huff from acoustic demo of hers called You Are Me. Really cool little track. I really like what she's doing with it, and I like the raw dynamic of it. And then you're going to get literally a 30-second taste of a new track that Greg and I are working on. So sit back and enjoy something a little bit different this time.
You've got time to look past all the things that we have. You've got eyes deeper than the sun. Get away from me with your loaded gun. Is it daylight now? Are you scared to come out? Is it daylight now? Will your secrets come out from the shadows and tear you down? Will they tear you down? Are you so proud now? Will they tear you down? Will they tear you down? You see red looking down at me, knowing that I know the history. What you did, what you do, will always be running behind you. Every move. Is it daylight now? Are you scared to come out? Is it daylight now? Will your secrets come out from the shadows and tear you down? Burn you inside out? Oh, you're so devout. Do not let them come out and set you will down my mind. I can be so kind. Is it daylight now? Is it daylight now? Is it daylight now?
Our leaders can't be trusted. On that, I think we'd all agree. Distracting us, dividing us, disguising what they let us see. Do they know what really happens when we leave this plane. Many other truths that we cannot explain. Proverbial, ethereal, all elusive, vague, are not a delusion. There's corruption, collusion. It's all conspiracy. We, the people, can't handle the truth. It's top secret, and they'll never tell us that we are not alone.
Yes, they'll never tell us that we are not alone. Just again, and it really just sometimes certain things, they strike a chord, no pun intended. And, Greg has really been kind of crafting this around a particular framework, and it does reflect in many ways what I'm talking about, the twisting of perceptions, the, I guess you could say, manipulation of information around us, the drive to shit that really, let's be honest, does not serve us and just keeps us fucking divided. And again, as I mentioned with collaborative music, I have another track also that I'm working with my brother, Jonathan Phoenix, out there. He and I did, no coincidence, Time of the Phoenix was one of the earlier tracks that he, myself, Matt Brown, my son, and Jeff Thal put together. And it's a really cool track, and we love it. And, it will always have a special place. But, and Jonathan knows this, we're just getting started. Just getting started. A lot of beautiful things to look forward. And in many ways, this is our magic. This is how we translate a lot of the stuff. And sometimes it's darker. And then sometimes, it's upbeat. And it's important. Again, when we look at the day after of anything, sometimes the day after is framed in good things. We have something that happens in our life. Wow, a piece of magic, boom. And we're on cloud nine. We're feeling great. You know what I mean? And we're loving that. But the day after, we always have to be cognitive. Not only so much in giving it its fair respect, its due, but also in preserving that, because when shit gets bad, those are the moments that we need to remember, that we need to stay focused on. Say, hey, listen, you know what? Today may not be a great day, but those days were. And then those days will have new days just like that. That is part of the infinite cycle. Is there going to be good and bad? There's no way around it. Nothing you do is going to prevent that. What you can do is emphasize the things when you have the opportunity. And obviously, by our actions, we can steer some of it. But again, what we make of it, especially in how it translates in our heads, in our hearts, or dare I say, in our souls, we do have some control. Is it easy? Definitely not. It requires practice. You have to find ways that are unique and obviously speak to the individual that will do that. I use music. Music and humor are two easy go-tos for me. If something's, fucked up, and especially if I feel fucked up to it, yeah, I'll turn to the dark humor because that's better than the steaming pile of shit that it started off with. Is it perfect? No, but it can't be. So this is the proverbial lesser of the two evils. And there's so many elements around us. We are more alike than we're not. And we can change things simply by working together. It's one of the things that we're doing with the radio station and the podcast and the stuff that Shia does and all the other little circles that cross over, be they in Wisconsin, like our sisters Oracle and Jess, or Ohio, like Josh and Raven, or in Brooklyn, like Pete Palace, or here, right in Rochester, New York, with Brian and Ed and Diane and Tivia and all, or in Jersey with my mother, or Tony Rodriguez, or out in Tennessee, in Memphis, my brother Tom Hampton. You know what? And that's just scratching the fucking surface. We can together, we can change the narrative. We can make it just a little better. Is it going to fix everything? No. And I don't think there's any, illusion that all these things that are around us are simply just going to be like, I'm sorry, and go away. They're not. We're going to have to fight for it to certain degrees, but we have to be smart. We have to really leverage the dynamics of what we can. When we speak as a voice, and when we speak from a civilized and structured context, it makes more of an impact. If we go out there going ape shit and doing stupid shit, guess what? Nobody takes it seriously then. And then there's the other side of the issue. Now you're opening the door for the heavy-handed tactics. I understand that sometimes, you know what, I mean, we really have to stand up, but let's look at it for what it is. And I only say that in the dynamic that, you know what, I don't want any of my brothers and sisters to have to suffer at all. If I had the magic wand, believe me, it would be done. The running joke is that's why I don't have deeper superpowers, because it'd be on like fucking Donkey Kong, and we won't even start with that. Okay. Can't feed that particular fire. It is dangerous. Want to give a special shout out to the lovely Witch of the East out there, really holding her own in another end of the world arena. Much love and magic to you. I'm hoping that your day will be magical in whatever way you need. And, again, I was talking about the Contini context, and then, yes, Brother Edward Contini shows up. Hey, listen, man, I'm running solo. Shy is off with Melody. She's over fucking Niagara Falls, and then they're going to be jumping across the Massachusetts. They're on one of their witch mission type of things, saving the universe or some shit. I don't know. I know better than to get too deep into the workings of witches. You know how this goes. Come on, man. We've had this conversation. The Contini context is everywhere, man. Got to be cognitive of it. Truly, again, I love this guy. He and I, are not only working on things with the radio station, but he's one of the new members of Pocketful of Wolves. He'll be performing with me October 7th at the House of Guitars. We're going to be writing some music through the winter, depending upon how fucking bad it gets up here. We find ourselves inundated with White Walkers and other weird shit. We'll get through. Listen, if you're from Jersey, you can survive just about fucking anything. Ed and I have joked about that. It's like, man, I survived fucking Jersey City. What the fuck you gonna throw at me? And yes, Ed, I find you funny. And we can address that Sunday over dinner. Funny, ha. Yeah, exactly like that. Like you're a funny fucking guy. Like the way you tell the joke, it's fucking funny. We have that kind of love. And it's important. It definitely makes a difference. Yeah, funny how. See, I'm going to tell your wife to fuck with you. She'll do it. Let me tell you, Diane, Mamma mia. That woman has deep old magic, and she has the George Carlin wit. She don't give a fuck. And it's a really beautiful dynamic to see in play, because part of her magic is that the people around her that she cares about, she genuinely loves. And she makes it a point in what she does. She doesn't just talk about it. She's not like, she walks up to you, grabs you by the cheek. Oh, isn't he so cute? Now, Mama's fucking hands-on. She'll get into shit. And very much like my mother. I'm telling you, Diane and my mother would hit it off fucking instantly. It might be terrifying, because if you put two powerful Italian women, you know what? We already have that. Who the fuck am I kidding? You got multiple powerful Italian women in a circle. See, I just figured out my own fucking dilemma. Ed, I figured out at least one multiverse of the Contini context. Could you imagine putting more of them together? But again, all joking aside, I love it. It's incredibly beautiful. It means a lot. And I cherish these moments. Sunday is literally at their place. It has become a thing. And we laugh and we joke and we make music and fucking incredible food. Food done an old school way. Let me tell you, Ed, if you're listening, you got to tell Diane this. And this is where I'm just going to have a conversation with my friends, and everybody can sit in and just listen. You can be the fly on the wall in this moment. Ed can't actually really communicate besides taking those monkey paws and typing out some letters. How do I spell this? You got it, brother. You can handle it. Just those keys, each one of them represent a letter. And that finger of yours, probably the middle finger right now, you just got to kind of give it a little push, man. You just got to get it in there slowly. Okay. But we have this incredible dynamic that we can have fun. But the story, before I get completely lost off track, Diane made up a batch of food from Sunday dinner to send home to the boys, because the boys work third shift and unfortunately they can't come over and interact the way that we would all like. And especially for my son, you know what I mean? My son really likes being over there. Corey wants to. It's just, by the time Corey actually wakes the fuck up and starts getting into mode, it's time to go to work. And he's just conditioned that way because he's a welder. So everything is tack. But we love him. But these are the dynamics of a family. So Diane puts together, this nice big bowl of food and stuff, She's got some macaroni and some gravy and some meats and stuff. And she made some old school meatballs and, raisins, and the pine nuts and everything like that. And the different mix of meat and, the whole thing. And he fucking, let me tell you what, he dug it. You know what I mean? He was a little bit like, he's not used to the texture of the raisins in the meatballs. But that sausage, Ed, let me tell you, he loved that fucking sausage. He was like, okay, that was some fucking sausage. But it was just the gesture. It was the moment. And it means a lot. So yes, thank you, my brother. I love you all. All right. So in continuing with some music, and this is a track I played before, but it's a powerful track. And, I think it's important again to reference when musicians put out certain things, many times they are reflective of their pain, of their struggles. And they put it out there not only to help themselves, but to help other people, to speak to other people, to say, hey, guess what? You're not alone. And many times the day after, the most important thing that we need is to not feel alone, to actually have a connection with somebody, to know that somebody, hey, guess what? We actually care. We love you. Okay? We need to do better to take care of each other. Now, there's many different variations on that. You know what I mean? And, as a wolf, sometimes I'm just like, yeah, I see a good ass and I'm just like, yeah, damn, that's a good ass. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean I'm going to touch it. You know what I mean? I'm a respectful wolf. But many times, just a simple, hey, how you doing? It doesn't have to be sexual in nature. It doesn't have to be anything more than whatever the moment requires. But when we do little things, even if it's sending, a plate of food home for somebody, or we're just like, hey, you look good, or good job, or in Ed's particular case, you didn't shit yourself today. Okay? Extra applause for you, brother. You didn't shit yourself. See, listen, we go at each other with some of this deeper, darker humor. But that's also how we process. We've seen some shit. Ed, for many years, was one of those first responders. He was an EMT. He was a medic. So he's seen the horrors, the nightmares that most of us don't even want to think about, let alone actually experience. But he was the guy who went out there to take care of other people. You know what I mean? And it takes character, it takes strength to be able to do that. And every one of those scenarios had a day after. So this next track, again, from Bantam High, reflects not only her struggle, but her magic, her desire to share those experiences, to give hope, to say, hey, guess what? You don't have to go down this road, even though the track is called Suicide. Okay. The theme, the context, the Contini context is not to go out and kill yourself. It's just like, hey, if you're feeling that way, there is a path forward. I was there. I got through it. It is meant as a reference point for reflection. Okay. So we're going to pop that and then we'll be back. Oh, yeah, a little bit of Handsome High suicide. Special shout out to the OG witch who just dipped in from swinging by from work. I'm talking about the Goblin Queen, Chanel. Oh, Chanel. You don't come around enough, so since you popped in, I had to at least throw you a little bit of the wolf fuckery and be like, hey, if you're going to peek your head in, I'm going to talk about you. All joking aside, I did a classical track that was kind of inspired by her two kids. Really, really great. And as a parent, there are certain things that are inherent to children. There's a certain dynamic, a magic, if you will, that comes with innocence and not being conditioned by the fuckery of adults, you know, and it's beautiful. So that moment touched me and inspired me in creating something completely different. And I really enjoyed it. And it's a special, not only is it a memory, but it is, again, I like to believe, you know, in its own way, a piece of storytelling. Not all stories have words, but everything has the Contini context. Because again, and for those of you who don't understand, and I'll put this out there, you know, I've mentioned it before, but it's worth repeating. The Contini context really is about that aspect that everything is not always what it appears. You can take any given situation and change a particular variable and it becomes something else. And then when you factor in people's perspectives, you're looking left, I'm looking right, doesn't mean that the shit isn't happening, isn't real. Just because of where we're at, we're not going to see it or experience it in the same way. And our realities are defined by those perceptions. So the Contini context teaches us and says, everything is in play, okay? Just because we don't understand it, just because we can't see it in the moment, doesn't make it less real. Now, again, certain things, again, will not survive in the Contini context, like stupidity. So if you're going to come out there and try and float some flat earth fucking bullshit, guess what? No, the Contini context already has that. That's like, you know, welcome to the event horizon. You're going into the black hole, the end. It doesn't exist. It has no framework. But the Contini context also says to us that in any given situation, depending upon certain things, you're going to get a different result. So we can't always judge based on, well, Bob said that if X and Y, well, you know, that was Bob's experience because Bob had a gerbil in his ass. Okay? And unless you're going to recreate those particular elements, you're not going to get the same result. And even still, you're probably still not going to get the same result. Special shout out to my sister, Jem. Happy Tuesday. Jem is the core, the magic, the goddess, ruling, controlling deity on the Rocket Oddities Con that I've been talking about and will continue to talk about. She's the one who's making it all happen. Much love to you, my sister. Thank you for all you do. Seriously. Not easy. Especially when you're dealing with people and personalities. Jem will be the first one to tell you. And one of these days after we get through this event, you know, it just really dawned on me. Because she and I have had some really cool conversations. I'm going to get her on the fucking podcast. And we're going to have this conversation with all of you. Right, Jem? I'm looking at you right now. I see that booty, girl. You can't get away. You can't hide. I love her. Just a little bit of humor magic for you, my sister. You stay strong. And if you need me, you know where I am. Shy is a little bit, she'll be harder to reach again. She's on a witch mission with one of her old witch circle people doing what they got to do. You know how this goes. And you know me well enough to know that as a wolf, I'm not going to get too deep into the workings of witches. I know better. My mother taught me well. How cool is that? You know what I mean? Again, I'm getting, Mom, I'm going to give you an extra shout out because you really are cool in that dynamic, old school freak. See, I got it right. She knows what I'm talking about. These are the things that are important. So the day after, she's still hanging out there. She's cool. She got her shades on. The day after any context, and especially if you're looking at it with the Contini context, perspective's going to change. Feelings are going to change. Many times, based on those initial emotions, we're going to feel a particular way. And then the day after, we feel differently. Sometimes not, though. I can honestly say with some of the things that happened in my life that it has energized me. It has given me a little extra spark. Am I still fighting my demons? Yes. Okay. Will that ever end? No. I have no illusions, expectations. I think that's the burden we all carry, is that it is a constant juggling act. You have to balance things as the Contini context applies it. You can never quite be sure where it's going to come from or who it's going to come from. But if we're honest, and if we do it from compassion and love, more times than not, we're in a better place. But sometimes we got to get old school Brooklyn and punch a motherfucker in the face. No, I'm not endorsing that. That was comedy, by the way. That was somebody else. That was a character playing a part. Kind of. Maybe. I don't know. Take what you need, leave the rest behind. I'll play the ambiguous card right now and just be like, I'm not really sure. I'm sorry. I'm not sure what I really meant then. I just, I said some things and, some people told me some things and, those things became things. And eventually I wasn't sure what the thing was. So I just figured I'd talk about this thing. And that's how the Contini context will literally steer you into the mouth of madness. Okay? But it can also take you to some wonderfully beautiful places too. It's all about how we look at things. And again, sharing that experience, communication. We have so much in common, but yet we are, again, different. But we can teach. We can share those experiences. And again, ultimately, not rocket science, we are stronger together than we are apart. We don't have to agree on everything. Okay, Bob wants to put the gerbil in his ass. That's his thing. I don't want to be a part of it. I'm sure PETA doesn't want really anything to do with it. They may have other issues with it, but for the sake of the comedy skit, we're going to pretend that PETA signed off on it. Somebody paid them off, gave them a trip to, Bermuda or some shit, or made a donation in their name, or, jerked somebody off in the parking lot, whatever the fuck happened. I don't know. But we'll just pretend for that sake. Yes, it's gross, but that is, again, that's an actual thing. You know what I mean? It's not like I just created some fucking, Scientology shit that just was born out of nothing and turned it into a religion. I'm talking about a particular dynamic that there's a segment of the population that enjoys rodents in their colon. I don't get it. Maybe it was born out of some other bullshit of this, that, and the other thing, but it makes for a great joke. Okay. Yes, the analogy is gross, but the lesser of two evils. I'm trying, huh? I'm trying. And listen, you know what? We're going to have the conversation. You're going to force it again. I see how this is going. This is going to become a little thing with you and I. You're going to come on my shows and you're going to force my hand. I was raised on shit like Monty Python, okay, and other elements of things that, dare I say, were a little bit outside the box. Now, in your defense, I also had uncles that literally specialized in farting in people's faces. My Uncle Jimmy used to take pleasure basically in ambushing somebody, getting his ass cheeks right up in there. Okay, and we're not talking like, giving you a little bit of space, like a plane, like a crop duster would come by, maybe it'd be, 40, 50 feet above, and just kind of give you that, nice dusting effect. No, my Uncle Jimmy would get it in there so that way, literally, if you had any semblance of a nose, you were going to participate in a partial colonoscopy. And when he let that rip, you were going to taste it. Okay. You weren't just going to smell it. You were going to taste it. Okay. This is the dysfunction of my father's family. Now, I say that with love because I actually love my Uncle Jimmy. Okay. He had a fucked up, gross humor. But I'm a victim of my conditioning. I'm going to play that card. I'm going to identify this way. Again, for the sake of the skit and all the powers that be, I've already paid off, and they've signed off on it. And since I'm not using writers, I'm not violating, any of the strike things. But, I want to play nice and say, hey, can we just figure the shit out, please? I mean, listen, again, I don't think anybody is surprised that, these big corporations are fucking everybody underneath them. They've been doing that for years. Listen, I've seen, and I've been watching, I was joking with my mom, I've been watching a lot of old black and white movies. Ed and I have been, joking about some of the Jersey, Brooklyn, Italian dynamics. So I've been, feel like, they're dragging me back in. But, I kind of identify, and I'm looking, at guys like, Paul Mooney and fucking James Cagney, Public Enemy, and James Gandolfini and Tony Soprano, and, again, just Al Pacino, just the Corleone saga. You know what I mean? I know it's stereotypical, but so much of that really is framed in some deep truths and stuff. And I won't segue too far off of it, but we find ourselves in moments where we art imitates life imitates art. So certain things will speak to us and they'll reflect a certain dynamic. In my particular case, I'm struggling with the dynamic of not just going old school Brooklyn and just when somebody does something that crosses a particular threshold, a line of just, doing a Clemenza scene. You know what I mean? And I know that's wrong. I can't be that way. All right. I don't want to be that guy. But man, some of the bullshit that people do out there, some of the fucking atrocities that are done, and that you see, that it's hard sometimes not to just be like, let's just deal with it Old Testament way. Now, again, not condoning violence. I'm not suggesting, hey, let's everybody put Batman suits on and take shit into our own hands. But I was reading today, one of these fucking idiots that busted out of penitentiary in Pennsylvania or some shit, or wherever the fuck he was. He's been running from town to town, and, he managed to get into some guy's house and get a gun. And the guy took a shot at him. And, I saw a bunch of people are like, and I'm like, fuck you, man. This guy is an armed fucking felon. My only regret is, you didn't put him down for the rabid dog that he is. Now, granted, I'm sure that guy's got family and people that love him, and he's misunderstood. But you know what? You live by the sword, you die by the fucking sword. If you're going to run out there and you're going to steal fucking weapons from somebody's house while you're fleeing a prison sentence for some other bullshit, it's pretty much safe to say that you're not going to play by any standard of morality. All right. And I think I can speak for most of us that we're sick and tired of innocent people being fucking statistics. Yeah, that one got stuck in my throat. Let's rant a bit more. Why don't I? So yes, the day after, we have to be reflective of it, and we have to say, okay, you know what? I can't just be that way. Even if it's easy and it makes me feel good in the moment, I have to be better. I have to find other ways. I have to try to be patient and tolerant. I know he's a fucking murderer, but you know what I mean? We have to counterbalance that. And listen, I do not want to send that wrong message. And it is a fucking slippery slope. But you know what? There are moments, the Contini context will say, and I hate to say, I will own this for myself. I'm not suggesting it to anybody, But in a hypothetical situation, in a multiverse reality, and some stupid motherfucker was going to try and do something to somebody that I love and care about, you know what? All bets are off. And if violence is involved, so be it. Doesn't mean I want it. I try not to look for it. But so help me, gods, goddesses, devils, demons, fucking talking volcanoes, whatever the fuck. I am not going to sit idly by and just observe. It's not who I am. I make no apologies for it. I try and balance it, but as you can see, the universe wants me to shut the fuck up. Hang on. You know what? I don't want to shut up. I'm going to drink. You can hear I'm going to drink some water. This is also what happens when you're a fucking smoker. Kids at home, don't smoke. Okay? Don't fall into the trap that the rest of generations before you have fallen into. I'll be the first one to admit, it's a fucking shitty habit. It's a conditioned element. It is an addiction in many ways. But for me, lesser of two evils. It's the only way I can justify it. But yeah, it will throw off, moments like this where I can't fucking talk. But I'm getting there. And I'm almost done. I'll squeeze it out because these are things that are worth talking about. And sometimes shit happens in the moment. But yeah, you know what I mean? You already have two innocent people dead. Why should we be playing nice? Obviously, he doesn't give a fuck. George Carlin had a really, really hysterical skit, and it was kind of dark, but his solution was, and I'm going to paraphrase it to some degrees. It's not going to be exact, obviously, because simply I can't remember it exactly for what it was, and I couldn't do it better than he could anyway, and also obviously because it protects me from any copyright infringement. So fuck you. But anyway, the basic gist of it is you take all the child molesters and the preverts and the type that like to beat up on women and murderers, rapists, all your pieces of shit types, and you take them all and you send them to Kansas, okay? You get everybody else the fuck out. You basically open up Kansas. You throw them all into Kansas, literally. You build a big giant fence around Kansas, and we already know we can do that because Trump built us a wall for Mexico, right? So, I mean, fuck, we could do that. Why can't we do it for Kansas? But anyway, we put all the scumbags and assholes, we put them in Kansas, and we build a big fucking fence around them, okay? And we take care of them, you know what I mean? We give them drugs and food and alcohol and stuff. And, basically, hey, you guys got to stay here for right now, but we got a really cool solution for you. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to give them all weapons and shit and get them all fucked up. And then we're going to sell it on pay-per-view. Okay. Now everybody at home can participate and, they can all just fuck each other up and, make a couple bucks along on the side, and, whoever's left, you know what I mean? We'll basically, he wins an island that, we'll just stick him on and he can live out the rest of his days in whatever drugged up Pornhub fantasy suits his narrative. But the morality of it obviously is questionable. We don't want to. Life is important, right? We need to protect it. That's why we need to tell women what to do with their bodies. I mean, that's the narrative, right? Oh, am I going sideways? Yeah, that happens sometimes. But getting back to, I'm sure there are people in Kansas who are like, well, I love Kansas. Kansas has this. Well, got to go someplace. So, I'm just really, again, just taking the narrative from George. George felt like Kansas was the place. Maybe he had people who kind of went out there, scoped it out. There's some elements of this, that, the other thing, but obviously Kansas is the place to send them all to. And then we just, kind of like what you have to do with a garden sometimes. We do some fucking pruning. You know what I mean? Say, well, we're going to cut back these weeds here and here so that, the tomatoes can grow better. Because that's what we really want. We want the tomatoes. We don't want the fucking weeds. Who wants, can't do anything with that. That's not, productive. That doesn't support a capitalistic system. You know what I mean? Dare I say, maybe that's something else. I don't know. It's pretty funny. I look back at some of the older narratives of things and I kind of have to scratch my head and just be like, wow, we have been following a trajectory of, some really, really off the wall shit. You know what I mean? And, we like to pretend like, hey, we're advanced, we're cool. But pretty much with anybody with an IQ over like 130 will tell you that from any other advanced species or society outside the box would probably look at us like a fucking virus. If we're going to be honest and have the honest conversation, we pretty much consume and destroy everything around us, and we breed out of control with no concern, with no compulsion or morality, incredibly invasive, dangerous, and questionable higher function skills. If you look at some of the things, that we do, and again, if you just take the Contini context and you just slice out that particular moment, okay, and let's just say, the space turtles happen just to be flying by, that time that HBO is broadcasting a close-up of Cardi B's ass, and then that's all they got to go from, we're fucked. Okay, you do realize that. We're all fucked, and not in the good kind of way. Now, in the spirit of comedy, and again, not wanting to get sued, I'm not suggesting that Cardi B would be responsible for the end of the world. I might be suggesting that the side of her ass might start an intergalactic war. But since that you can't really draw a definitive line, and since it doesn't affect anybody's intellectual properties except maybe the aliens out there, and I don't think they actually have standing, you know what I mean? You know how that goes. Everybody has to wait their turn to have any semblance of, equal rights, because, and I'm going to close out the show with this final repeat of the quote, and then I'm going to close out with a track that we did last year that has some of the reflections of post 9/11. But think about it this way. They don't want us informed. They don't want us educated. They don't want us capable of critical thinking. It's against their interests. They just want people who are smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and dumb enough to passively accept the bullshit for what it is. So, take what you need, leave the rest behind. Some of it may be hard to process. You know what I mean? Especially if you've had to live within a particular framework. And again, usually, a lot of times, it's not your fault. If that applies to you. Many times we find ourselves caught in situations we don't want to be. We didn't choose it, but this is what it is. So there's hope. So, again, we can agree to disagree, but there is a path forward, and the path has to start with communication, opening our minds. Don't just swallow the pill. Okay, no pun intended. Ask questions, engage, get involved, ask for help, whatever it may or may not be. So as I mentioned, this last track, Matt Brown, myself, my son, Jeff Thal, we did this thing, and it was based around an aspect of a friend of ours, photography, Rick Verity. And Rick has gone around the country and shot all the different types of things. And a lot of what he shot was focused around some of the things that we were doing with the foundation and what we were doing musically. So we kind of used both elements, but we interweaved things, and they were specific things. Our perceptions regarding things like addiction, our perceptions regarding how people may or may live in different parts of the country, the people that tend to be dismissed, forgotten, the homeless woman on the street. You know what I mean? And the track, You Below, reflects those perceptions. And that's what the day after really is. It's about that perception, the reflection of one moment against another moment. And those perceptions many times are unique. So we have to share them, because how else are people going to understand them? It is really the very nature of communication, how we learn, how we evolve, how we adapt, is we have to share it. We have to share this information. And that's part of what I try and do. And I try and do it in a context of love. So I'm going to keep doing that, keep making music, keep talking shit. Take what you need, leave the rest behind. Again, thank you everybody for the support. Shai will be on tomorrow night from some undisclosed location. She may be back at it. She may be stopping here at the house and doing it. I'm not really sure what the fuck's going on. All I know is that she will be on 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for her Dancing with Witches. I'll be back next Monday night on the radio, 10 p.m. WRFZ. And I'll be back next Tuesday here again for another episode of the podcast. So until that time, I'm going to close out with the view below. Much love.
As the world pushes towards the edge, there's a tension ever growing in the air. A child drags the blanket through the mud. She hides her eyes from the gleam of the sun, but we say, as below, so above, it shall be. The so-called trickle down, the piss of royalty. Sees to most certainly his grave. In his wallet, a wrinkled photograph of families embraced by decree of a crown to war for naught but vain. They send the desperate poor to die, but we say, as above, so below, it will be. The tower of reflective glass, the view below their feet. We see ourselves while looking in, but inside can't be seen. The old proverb speaks true. glass and throwing stones. Well, the rocks have been just streaming down from the top of the palace walls. Wouldn't it be just a shame if we returned him home?